The British economy endured a trialling 2016 with the Brexit vote and, as a consequence, a plummeting sterling. And 2017 is set for more trials with rising inflation, cautious consumers and sluggish growth, all set to drag on the British economy. Giles Duma from Lombard Street Research is here with me now for more analysis on what to expect from the British economy in 2017. So, what a year, first of all. Let's just conclude what 2016. Brexit was obviously the major event.
Yeah, Brexit was a major event, of course, in terms of events, but the other fact is that this is a full employment economy growing above its normal trend, and you know, the level of unemployment is down to a very low rate at 4.6%. And so the major devaluation has been added to already full tilt growth rate.
Mm-hmm. And what does this mean for the average person living in Britain next year? Do you think that they're going to feel it at the supermarket?
Yeah, prices will inevitably go up because we've had a devaluation of about 10%, and imports are probably 25–30% of the economy, so that's 2.5–3% inflation, unless it is not passed through, but it probably will be passed through because this is a full employment economy. In fact, the really interesting point is that as demand shifts into the balance of payments and net exports, it has to be shifted out of real consumer spending. So given the economy is overheating and there would normally be a wage follow-through to the price inflation, you're probably going to have to see significant tightening by the Bank of England next year, which is not exactly what they've prepared us for, but then they never really were very prepared in terms of understanding what was going on this last year.
Okay, so you think Mark Carney got it wrong then?
Well, I think everyone thinks Mark Carney got it wrong. The fact is that he said that the economy needed easing and there was going to be a collapse of investment. There has not been a collapse of investment. The economy has continued to grow at a pretty decent rate, at an above trend rate, and superimposed on this good growth is this devaluation, which is inflationary. So the normal thing in that situation is to tighten policy.
Okay. Another big event next year will obviously be Article 50, you know, whether it's March, April, May, whenever. What will happen? Do you think that we'll have an exodus from the City of London of people? I mean, what will be the scenario?
Well, there has to be some loss of jobs in the City of London arising from all of this, because the Euros are going to want to take back the Euro business as far as they can. But on the other hand, people don't actually do business very effectively in Frankfurt and Paris. And so there's not going to be all that much of that. But the other thing to remember is that Article 50 simply is a preliminary for 2 years of negotiations. And the negotiations aren't even going to get serious until we finish with the French elections in April and May and the German elections in September or October. Mm-hmm. So the reality, I think, is that next year we'll see a certain amount of kind of squaring off, if you like. People will circle one another through the summer. The people will beat their chests and say, "Me strong man," and all of that kind of thing. But then they'll get down to business seriously once the German government is settled in the autumn, but not before then. Okay.
And what else do you think will shape the British economy next year?
Well, you know, the other thing that's important to what's going on is, of course, Trumponomics, as we probably shouldn't call it, because I don't think there's any kind of economic theory behind it. But at any rate, there are big tax cuts coming through probably in the second quarter in the United States. It's impossible to imagine that an entirely Republican Congress, which loves cutting taxes, and a president like Trump is not going to produce tax cuts. Probably the protectionist agenda against the Chinese will largely be a sort of shouting match rather than substantive. But what that means, of course, is that the US economy, which is anyway growing at an above trend rate of 2.5% and is overheated too, just like us, is going to carry on growing at that sort of rate right into 2018. So, so that means the whole world is actually on quite a strong growth patch next year.
And it just shows you can't have a conversation about the British economy without talking about the interconnected global economy, can you?
Absolutely. No. It's a very international country.
Giles, thank you very much indeed for your time. So that was us today talking about the British economy in 2017.